then give you a number. And we say 3. And we sit in this windowless room all day. And there's no competition, no competitors are there, and you want 5. And you're saying, come on, you guys. And so finally we have a long chart after chart, PowerPoint slide after PowerPoint slide, numbing exercise. And at the end of it, we have the negotiated settlement. We get 4. You go home saying, I gave him hell, I raised him to 4. And we go home, we say, hey, we didn't have to give him any more than 4. And so the whole exercise isn't about ideas and growing. It's about this compromise, this awful compromise. So instead of exercising our brain as to how much we can do, and then getting turned down on a number of proposals, buy this, spend this, we end up in this small exercise. So what we did in GE was we had operating plans. And what we came in with was the most you can come up with. And so we never made an operating plan in the end, but we knew what 2 things you want to be measured against. How well the competition did and how you did against last year. Nothing else counts. Why would you ever measure versus budget? That was a deal you made with some guy in a room. It had nothing to do with the outside world. That's how stupid it is. It's really awful.
Yeah, but compensation is based on the budget.
No. Compensation is based on your relative performance vis-a-vis your competition. And the story I tell in the book was 1995 or 6, I forget the exact year. GE Plastics was having a boom year. I mean, an idiot could have had a boom year. There was a shortage of materials. Pricing was anything you wanted. And so they increased their earnings about 27%. The appliance business in GE, white boxes, the toughest game in town. You got to save the erasers, the lead on the pencil. I mean, you sharpen the pencil 10 times to get it down to be this long to save money. Yeah, they were up about 1 or 2% of flat. Maytag and Whirlpool were down 15%. DuPont, on the other hand, was up 35% in their plastics business, and Dow was up 39%. Our plastics people didn't capitalize on the pricing environment they had to do as well as they could have. So plastics, up 25%, got a smaller bonus than appliances did, even though they were up 27% and appliances was up 1%. And we broadcast it to everyone. It wasn't a secret. Their relative performance in their industry was nowhere as good as the appliance people. And until you imbue that into your culture, you'll end up, and that's how and they have to have trust in the system that you're going to do that.
But who made the final judgment?
The team of us at the top, 3 or 4 of us.
So
Judgment, but totally on this feel, not on any numbers. An assessment of the competitive environment and how they did. And it was transparent, though. Our bonuses were always transparent. Everybody knew what the other guys got. There was no games where if you couldn't give somebody a raise, it's like those management awards. Some companies give management awards to people, and they don't broadcast it because they don't want to offend the people that didn't get it. That's the dumbest idea in the world. Why don't you want your best to know everything about what they're doing? You want that.
Let me turn the subject to another practice for which you're famous that's stressed in the book, and that's differentiation.
Famous and infamous.
Yeah, where you treat 20% as stars, manage the middle 70, so to speak, and let the bottom 10 go. It occurred to me as I was reading...
Can I change the language eventually?
Of course.
Okay. You embrace the top 20, you deal with the middle 70, and you face into the bottom 10, and you do what's right for them and for you. But go ahead.
Well, my question had to... Okay. My question had to do with whether you ever found an impact on how people hired. Because if you knew you were going to have to let people go, did you ever see people hiring carelessly at the bottom? And if you did, what did you do about it?
That's a great question and one I've never had. This is a very smart dean. No, I mean,
my wife suggested the question, actually. Just credit where credit's due.
I never had that question, though, and I never thought, if I don't sound mean. I'd say that's a cynical view of how people bring people together.
I'm an economist.
And I really don't have an answer for that. If in fact people want to beat the system because they are in fact that duplicitous, you can get had 1,000 times. None of these systems are perfect. I mean, we actually in this, and can I talk about the 20-70-10 a minute?
Please, I was going
Because
to
it's really
push on that a little, yeah.
But your question is an absolute new one and one we've never thought about. On the 20-70-10, we think everyone, now as you go out in the workplace, you're going to become managers and leaders and other things. We think everyone has an obligation, once you become a leader, to let everybody who works for you know where they stand. We think that is an absolute obligation. And so I came up with this differentiation thing, and it's not precise. It's the top 20, it might be 25, 20, who knows, 23. And the middle 70, that important group that you've got to motivate every day. And then the bottom 10. And the bottom 10 are people that aren't going to make it in your place. And if you're going to, you got to believe in business, like you do in the Red Sox or anything else, that the team that fields the best players wins. And so you're always trying to field the best players. Now, if you tell the bottom 10 where they stand and they're in the bottom 10, and you put a system in place that they cannot get a raise under any, the computer won't give them a raise, and they can't get stock options. So there's no false signals, because some companies will throw along 3 and 4% raises, which is a false signal. And nobody wants to face it. So in this case, you bring them in, you say, look, this isn't working. You're in the bottom 10. You're not going to get any money here. It's time for you to look for something else. Let's, over the next year, get you to move on. I'll tell you, and that's considered cruel management. And when I say that to some groups, they say, I'm too nice a manager to do that. Well, let me tell you something. You work for a company someday, and you have a recession, and you have to get rid of 15% of the costs or whatever it is, and you have to cut back. You're going to go cut back on that bottom 10. And you're going to call them in the office. You're going to say to them, look, you've got to go now. And now. No planning. We got to get our costs down. We're in trouble. And they're going to say to you, why me? And you're going to say, well, look, you weren't very good. Now you're telling me. I've been here 25 years.
Right.
And now they're 53 years old and they don't have options to do things. That's cruel management. So anyone that tells you they're a nice manager because they don't face into that, smack them one. It's just plain wrong. It's wrong. I'll guarantee you, every one of you, how many of you think you could, after being at MIT for this period of time, could go to your class tomorrow and then come home and write a differentiation curve for your class? Top 20, middle 70, and bottom 10 of your fellow students. How many could do it? None of you could do it? Raise your hand, please, if you could do
attention.
it. Geez, amazing. A lot of you couldn't do it.
Huh.
I don't want you managing with me. I'll tell you that. No, you got to do it. You've got to be able to do it. Let's have a discussion, because obviously it's bothering some people because they can't do it or they don't want to do it. Should we talk about it some more? Because this is really important. Let's have some comments from the audience.
Let me make one comment before we do it. The way universities run, about 25% of the new faculty we hire get tenure. The others either leave or are counseled out. So it's in some ways very close to the same system, but nobody thinks of it as at all similar. But it is. Questions from the audience? Be brave. Rise.
First one with a question gets a Mercedes.
Right there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the reason in school you have the curve of 70% of people have different priorities. Some people have different subjects, different activities. There's no single standard to that level. I mean, how do we have a single standard level? How
No, people are doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Some are in sales, some are in engineering, some are in manufacturing, some are in finance. They're doing all kinds of things. And you've got to make those calls, and you've got to be able to judge your group